There's something pretty beautiful about abandoned places that gets your pulse racing before you even step inside. Maybe it's the eerie silence, the peeling walls, or the way time seems frozen in decay. But some ruins? They're not just unsettling. They're straight-up death traps. We're talking about places so structurally unstable, so steeped in tragedy, that even seasoned urban explorers think twice before going in. Some are crumbling beyond repair, others hide deadly secrets. And a few? Let's just say the spirits inside aren't exactly rolling out the welcome mat. If you're drawn to the eerie and the unexplained, buckle up, because these 15 ruins aren't just creepy. They're places you should never, under any circumstances, set foot in. Let's start off with number 15, St. George's Church, Czech Republic. If a place ever earned its nickname, it's this one. St. George's Church, tucked away in a remote Czech village, was already balancing on the edge of legend before it became the ghost church. Built in 1352, this church saw more fires than faith over the centuries, but things took a chilling turn in 1968 when part of the roof collapsed mid-funeral. The congregation took one look at the wreckage and decided the place was haunted beyond redemption, abandoning it entirely. Thieves and vandals took over, until 2012 when an art student changed everything. He filled the pews with 30 life-sized ghostly figures, heads bowed in eternal prayer. Tourists now come just to sit among them, surrounded by the silent, faceless watchers. Whether it's an art installation or something more, that depends on whether you hear whispers when no one else is around. Number 14. The Catacombs of Paris, France. Paris is just glamorous. Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe, but dig a little deeper, literally, and it's nothing but death. We really mean it. Back in 1780, the city's cemeteries were so overstuffed with bodies that one collapsed, spilling rotting corpses into a wine cellar. That's when authorities decided to clear out the graves and move the dead underground, stacking skulls and femurs like firewood in the old limestone quarries. By the time they finished, they had packed the tunnels with 6 million bodies, turning the catacombs into a bone-filled maze. Only a tiny portion is legal to visit. The rest? A pitch-black labyrinth of the forgotten. People have gotten lost and never returned. Stories tell of whispers in the dark, figures moving just out of sight, and doors that slam on their own. Step too far in, and you might become part of the walls, whether you want to or not. Number 13. Xunantunich, Belize. Deep in the jungle, past the heat, the ruins, and the howler monkeys, something waits. Xunantunich has been abandoned for over 1,000 years, but one resident refuses to leave, the Stone Lady. First spotted in 1893, she's always the same. Long black hair, glowing red eyes, a flowing white dress. She lingers near El Castillo, the tallest pyramid in the city, staring out over the land as if she's waiting for something. Some believe she was a sacrifice, her blood spilled on the pyramid's altar in a long-forgotten ritual. Others say she's a warning, one last spirit keeping watch over a city that was never meant to be disturbed. One thing is certain, she sees you before you see her, and if you catch a glimpse, don't stare too long. People say she doesn't like it. As a wise old man once said, China is not a place to go into, but it is a place to get out of. Number 12. Himeji Castle, Japan. If you ever hear counting echoing through Himeji Castle at night, turn around and leave. This stunning white fortress was built in 1333 and is one of Japan's best preserved castles, but its beauty hides a dark legend, one that makes your skin crawl. Long ago, a young servant named Okiku was accused of stealing one of 10 valuable dishes. Framed for a crime she didn't commit, she was tortured and thrown down the castle wall. That should have been the end of her story. It wasn't. Today, visitors swear they can hear her ghost counting plates in a hushed, mournful voice. She always stops at 9 before letting out a bone-chilling scream and disappearing. Some say it's just folklore, but even hardened skeptics feel a heavy presence near the well. Whatever happened to Okiku, one thing is clear. She's still looking for that 10th plate. Number 11. Port Arthur. They called Port Arthur inescapable, not just because it was a prison, but because some never truly left. It was hell on each by common sense. Built in 1833, this penal colony wasn't just about punishment. It was about breaking men down. Solitary confinement, starvation, and brutal discipline were daily life. Many prisoners went mad before they ever left their cells. And when they died, their bodies were dumped on the Isle of the Dead, buried in unmarked graves, their suffering erased. But erased isn't the same as forgotten. Visitors report shadows moving in the old penitentiary, disembodied voices whispering in their ears, and a heavy, suffocating presence near the solitary cells. And if we speak about the Isle of the Dead, well, it's pretty dangerous. Some people claim they've seen figures standing between the graves watching. Some say they've seen a 100-foot-tall monster with a tail like dragon and the head of a yeti. Some places don't want to be remembered. This one does. So, it's best to stay away if you love your wife and life. Number 10. The Forbidden City, China. By day, the Forbidden City is a breathtaking monument to China's imperial past. By night, it's a ghost-infested maze where history refuses to stay buried. You can Google it if you don't believe it. This legendary palace has seen centuries of political assassinations, mysterious deaths, and outright massacres, including the infamous purge of 2,800 concubines and eunuchs ordered by Emperor Yongle in 1421. Blood was spilled within these walls so often it's no wonder spirits still roam the corridors. Guards on the night shift whisper of phantom footsteps, eerie whispers, and sudden ice-cold gusts of wind in rooms that should be empty. The most famous apparition? A weeping woman in white, eternally trapped in sorrow. Some even claim to hear ancient music drifting from abandoned halls long after the palace is closed to the public. If history has ghosts, the Forbidden City is crawling with them. And that's exactly why they lock the gates at night. Number 9. Valley of the Kings, Egypt. The Valley of the Kings isn't just an archaeological wonder, it's a cursed one. This is where Egypt's most powerful pharaohs were laid to rest, and many believe they never truly left. When Howard Carter opened King Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, strange deaths followed. His financier, Lord Carnarvon, died from an infected mosquito bite shortly after. His dog mysteriously dropped dead the same day. Over the years, reports of shadowy figures slipping between tombs, eerie whispers, and flickering lights have surfaced. Tourists claim to hear unexplained voices warning them to leave, and some swear they've seen a ghostly chariot drawn by black horses racing through the valley at night. Whether it's the pharaoh's curse or just ancient energy refusing to fade, one thing's certain: some doors aren't meant to be opened. And once they are, something might be watching you. All right, guys. Now, let's move to Number 8. The Ancient Ram Inn. If a building has a history of witch trials, child sacrifices, and demonic hauntings, you probably don't want to spend the night there. But that's exactly what makes the Ancient Ram Inn in Gloucestershire one of the most terrifying places in England. Built in the 12th century, this former inn sits on a pagan burial ground, and according to visitors, it never let go of its past. Guests report being dragged from their beds by unseen hands, waking up with mysterious scratches, and even seeing shadow figures lurking in the corners. One of the most infamous spirits: a woman burned at the stake in the 1500s. She's still seen wandering the halls, looking for revenge. Even ghost hunters refuse to stay alone here overnight. And if the previous owner's stories are true, this place doesn't just have ghosts. It has something seriously worse. Number 7. The Colosseum. Rome's Colosseum isn't just one of the greatest wonders of the ancient world, it's also one of the bloodiest. For nearly 500 years, this massive arena saw executions, animal hunts, and brutal gladiator battles. Tens of thousands of people fought and died here for the entertainment of the masses. And apparently, some never left. Visitors have reported cold spots in broad daylight, shadowy figures lurking in the underground tunnels, and the sound of unseen footsteps following them. The most chilling part? The screams. Tourists and staff alike swear they've heard faint echoes of cries, battle chants, and ghostly howls coming from the dark corridors beneath the arena. Some believe it's just history leaving an imprint. Others think the Colosseum still remembers the blood that was spilled here. Either way, if you ever visit, listen carefully. You might hear the dead still fighting. Number 6. Daksa Island. You'd think an idyllic island off the coast of Dubrovnik, complete with a monastery, fortress ruins, and a lighthouse, would be a millionaire's dream. Yet, for over 2 decades, no one has dared to buy it. Why? Because Daksa isn't just uninhabited, it's haunted by its past. In 1944, communist soldiers, fresh from liberating Dubrovnik, rounded up suspected Nazi sympathizers, including priests and the newly appointed mayor, and executed them without trial. Their bodies were left to rot, and the island became a mass grave. Locals whispered about restless spirits, and for years, no one dared to set foot there. It wasn't until 2009 that the remains were finally given a proper burial, but by then, Daksa's reputation was set in stone. Today, the island remains silent, empty, and unsold, because some places, no matter how beautiful, refuse to be owned. Number 5. Edinburgh Castle, Scotland. Edinburgh Castle isn't just the crown jewel of Scotland, it's also its most haunted fortress. Sitting high above the city on an extinct volcano, this place has seen centuries of war, betrayal, and death. Some parts of the castle date back over 900 years, and trust me, the ghosts here have had time to get comfortable. Visitors have reported seeing restless colonial prisoners from the American Revolutionary War, French soldiers from the 7 Years' War, and even a headless drummer roaming the grounds. But the creepiest? The phantom dog that still haunts the castle's dog cemetery. People swear they've seen its shadow darting through the mist, heard the click of its paws on the stone, or even felt something brush against their legs, only to look down and find nothing. If you ever visit, keep an eye on the dungeons. Something down there doesn't like visitors. Number 4. Zvikov Castle. If you hear your camera glitching at Zvikov Castle, turn around and leave. This 13th century Gothic fortress has long been rumored to house something unnatural, and technology hates it here. Batteries drain, recordings corrupt, and electronics just stop working. But that's not the scary part. Local legends say that anyone who sleeps inside the main tower will die within a year. And it's not just bad luck. Visitors have reported seeing faceless figures in the windows, hearing whispers in an empty hall, and even watching animals flee for no reason. Some believe the castle's eerie energy dates back to pre-Christian times, when the land was used for pagan rituals. Others think a spirit still guards it, and not in a friendly way. Either way, if you ever visit, just don't stay too long, and definitely don't spend the night. All right, guys, now let's head over to Number 3. Petra. Petra is breathtaking, ancient, and absolutely cursed. Carved into sandstone cliffs over 2,000 years ago, this lost city has been the setting for blockbusters like Indiana Jones. But trust me, the real stories are way darker. Petra isn't just a historical wonder. Locals believe it's home to jinn, supernatural entities from Islamic folklore. Travelers have reported seeing figures in the shadows, hearing whispers in languages they don't understand, and even feeling an invisible force push them back. The most infamous legend? a treasure hunter who entered one of Petra's tombs, hoping to strike gold, only to vanish without a trace. Some say he angered the jinn guarding the site. Others say he never should have disturbed the dead. Whatever the truth is, we say just one simple thing to you. Some treasures aren't meant to be taken, and this is one of them. Number 2. Davelis Cave. Davelis Cave has seen a little bit of everything: ancient rituals, Christian monks, and full-blown paranormal chaos. Located just outside Athens, this cave was once used to mine marble for the Acropolis. But somewhere along the way, it picked up a much darker reputation. It was a sanctuary for worshippers of Pan, the half-goat god of the wild, before later becoming a Christian hideout. And today, it's a playground for the occult. Visitors report water running uphill, bizarre figures appearing in photos, and an eerie low-frequency hum that makes people feel sick, dizzy, or just plain terrified. Some even claim to have seen beings that weren't entirely human, twisted shapes lurking in the dark, watching from the cave's deepest tunnels. If the legends are true, Davelis Cave isn't just haunted, it's a doorway to something else. Number 1. Eastern State Penitentiary. Eastern State wasn't built to house criminals, it was designed to break them. Opened in 1829, this prison introduced a terrifying form of solitary confinement, where inmates lived, ate, and exercised alone, with zero human contact. Even when they left their cells, they wore hoods to prevent them from seeing or being seen. This psychological torture drove prisoners insane. By the early 1900s, the place became overcrowded, and punishments got even worse. Ice baths in winter, tongue chains, and the infamous iron gag that tore mouths apart. The prison shut down in 1970, but whatever horror was unleashed inside never left. Visitors report dark figures pacing cell block 12, disembodied whispers calling names, and invisible hands brushing against them. Some guards refuse to do rounds alone. This isn't just a haunted prison. It's a place where suffering never stopped. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in with us, and we'll see you soon in the next one.